Hey there, everyone. I'm Grace Sullivan. For the longest time, I believed that family was the one anchor you could always count on, the people who'd have your back no matter what. I learned the hard way that sometimes the deepest betrayals come from the very people you'd sacrifice everything for. What happened next? Well, it not only shattered my world, but in a strange way, it also cleared the path for me to build a new one, stronger than I ever imagined. People always say family will never turn on you. Oh man, they couldn't be more wrong because mine sure did. And the whole thing, the entire nightmare, it all kicked off because of a necklace I never laid a finger on and a poisonous lie I never saw barreling towards me. One minute, I was just pouring some orange juice at my sister Chloe's birthday brunch, trying to keep things running smoothly like always. The very next, she's standing up, center of attention, a spotlight none of us asked for. And she points straight at me, her voice ringing out, accusing me of stealing her $9,000 necklace. Just like that, the laughter in the room just died. Forks clattered down, frozen midair. And in that instant, I wasn't Grace, the daughter who quietly paid the bills, the sister who always helped. Nope. Suddenly, I was Grace the thief, Grace the liar, the black sheep, the shame of the entire Sullivan family. They threw me out that same night. No gentle warning, no chance to pack a suitcase, just one flimsy duffel bag and the deafening slam of the front door echoing behind me. What they didn't have a clue about, what they'd conveniently forgotten or maybe never even registered, was that I'd been the one keeping their whole comfortable little world afloat. Their mortgage, the lights, the internet, even Chloe's fancy private college tuition, that was all me. And when I walked out of that house, with that one bag clutched in my hand, I wasn't just taking my few belongings. I was taking their entire financial foundation right out from under them. This is the story of how they tried to absolutely ruin me, and how piece by painful piece, they ended up dismantling their own lives instead. My name is Grace Sullivan, and I'm 28 years old. If you'd told me just a few short months ago that my own younger sister, Chloe, would stand up and accuse me of swiping a $9,000 necklace, a family heirloom no less, just to humiliate me in front of everyone we knew, I probably would have laughed, a sad, tired laugh. Not because I didn't think Chloe was capable of that kind of cruelty. Oh, I knew she had a streak. But because I never, ever imagined she'd actually take it that far, that she'd detonate a bomb that big. But she did. And what came after that? Well, that's the part nobody, least of all them, ever saw coming. Let me take you back to that Sunday morning. The morning everything just shattered into a million pieces. It was sunny, deceptively warm, one of those lazy, hazy spring days where the world outside your window feels like it's breathing slow and easy. But inside our house, a storm was brewing, a nasty one, and I was completely oblivious, humming along as I helped set up. Chloe, my younger sister, had invited the whole clan over for brunch. She'd gone all out. Metallic balloons bobbing everywhere, champagne flutes that probably cost more than my last pair of shoes, fancy patterned plates, and she'd even hired some guy, a content creator, to take candid photos for her Instagram feed. Honestly, it felt like a bit much, a performance rather than a celebration, but I pitched in, helped her arrange the pastries and straighten the tablecloth, just like I always did. Because that's who I was, right? Grace, the quiet one, the dependable one, the family fixer, the reliable daughter. For years, I'd been the one silently, secretly, paying our household's electricity bills, the internet that Chloe was glued to, even the mortgage on the house after Dad lost his job a while back and things got tight. I never breathed a word about it to anyone. I didn't need a parade or a pat on the back. All I really wanted was a little peace in our home, a little stability. I even paid for Chloe's entire college tuition, directly to the university bursar's office, using my own salary from my accounting job. She had no idea. My parents, they knew I was helping, but not the full extent, not how much I was truly shouldering. I did it to protect them, I guess, to try and keep our family unit from splintering under financial stress. Turns out, all I was really doing was making it incredibly easy for them to stick the knife in and twist it. So that morning, everyone's gathered around the big dining table on the patio. Mimosas are flowing. There's this nervous, high-pitched laughter punctuating the air. Chloe is Queen Bee, naturally, showing off some new designer handbag that probably cost a month's rent. Then she stands up, taps her champagne flute with a spoon, that little ting-ting-ting cutting through the chatter. Before we go any further, she announces, her voice a little too loud, a little too theatrical, "I just want to say something really important." I figured, okay, here it comes. She's going to thank everyone for coming, or maybe announce she finally landed that internship she'd been vaguely talking about. But no, that wasn't it at all. She turned, her eyes locking onto mine, a strange cold glint in them. "I know this is super awkward," she began, her voice dripping with fake reluctance, "but Grace stole my $9,000 necklace, the gold one Grandma Sullivan gave me. I've been looking for it for weeks, and yesterday I found it, hidden deep in her dresser drawer." My heart didn't just stop. It felt like it imploded. The air was sucked out of the patio. The buzzing of a bee near the flower pot suddenly sounded deafening in the silence. And then, just like that, quicker than I could even process the accusation, they all believed her. Every single one of them. Not one person, not even my own father, looked at me and asked, "Grace, is this true?" Or, "Chloe, are you sure?" My mother gasped, a hand flying to her chest, her eyes wide with this horrified, almost vindicated look. "I knew it," she whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I always knew you were jealous of Chloe, Grace. Always." My father just shook his head, his gaze dropping to his plate, refusing to meet my eyes, his silence a heavier blow than any shout. I stood there, rooted to the spot, a cold dread creeping up my spine, my hands starting to tremble. I tried to speak, to defend myself, to scream that it was a lie, but the words wouldn't come. They were lodged in my throat, choked by the sudden, overwhelming weight of their collective judgment. I hadn't stolen anything. I wouldn't even borrow Chloe's cheap costume jewelry, let alone a precious heirloom. And yet, in that single brutal moment, I became the liar, the thief, the family disgrace. They told me to leave that very night. No discussion, no chance to pack properly, no tearful goodbyes. Not that I'd have wanted any from them at that point. Just one small duffel bag, mostly filled with work clothes I'd thankfully left at the dry cleaners and picked up the day before, and my laptop. My mother had actually said, "Just take what you need for a day or two. Well, sort out the rest later." But the way my father slammed the door behind me, the click of the deadbolt sounding like a gunshot in the quiet street, told me there was no later. They didn't know what I was really about to do. They had absolutely no idea that I was the one, the only one, holding their comfortable, curated lives together by a thread. But oh, they were about to find out. The hard way. That night, I didn't cry. I probably should have. But when someone you love, someone you've sacrificed for, stabs you in the back that viciously, the pain is too sharp, too raw for tears. It's more like a gaping wound that leaves you numb and breathless. I sat in the tiny, slightly dusty spare room at my friend Olivia's apartment, staring up at the water-stained ceiling, just trying to remember how to breathe evenly. Olivia, bless her heart, had offered me a place to crash the minute I called her, my voice probably sounding like a strangled mess. No intrusive questions, just come over. Keys under the mat. I hadn't told her everything, not then. Just mumbled something about a massive fight and needing space, a lot of space. But deep inside me, somewhere in the wreckage of my shock and hurt, something had flipped. A switch. For 4 solid years, I'd been paying the bills for a house that wasn't even in my name, a house where I was treated more like a convenient ATM than a daughter. I'd covered Chloe's exorbitant private college tuition fees while she was busy posting filtered beach photos from her spring break trips, captioned with things like "blessed" and "daddy's girl always." Daddy's girl, who had no idea her daddy hadn't been able to cover her luxuries for years. I paid for the groceries they ate, the repairs on the constantly breaking appliances, even Mom's weekly salon appointments for her essential blowouts when she'd sigh and say her credit card must be acting up again. And what did I get in return for all of it? A public crucifixion based on a lie. No defense offered on my behalf. Not a single person in that family even paused to ask why on earth I would do such a thing. I was guilty because blaming me, the quiet, unassuming one, was just easy. It fit their narrative. So that night, huddled on Olivia's lumpy futon, the sounds of the city a distant hum, I opened my laptop. The glow of the screen felt cold on my face, and I logged into all my online banking accounts, my utility accounts, the student loan portal I'd been making payments through for Chloe, and one by one, with a strange sense of calm, almost surgical precision, I started cutting the wires. I stopped the automatic payments for the mortgage on their house. I canceled the monthly transfers I'd set up for the electricity, the gas, the water. I went into the university's payment system and pulled the plug on Chloe's tuition funding, every last cent that was scheduled for the upcoming semester. The house was still in my father's name, legally. The bank statements, the overdue notices, they'd still go to my mother's email, the one she only checked for shopping deals. They'd figure it out soon enough. And when they did, I wouldn't be there to magically fix it, to smooth things over, to absorb their panic. I didn't leave a note. I didn't send a dramatic, angry text message. I just disappeared into the relative anonymity of Olivia's apartment. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, years and years, I actually felt a flicker of something like freedom. No crushing weight on my shoulders, no one shouting grace from another room, expecting me to drop everything and fix their latest self-inflicted mess. No one treating me like I owed them my entire existence just for being born into their family. But that peace, that fragile, newfound peace, it didn't last very long, because within 10 days, sheer, unadulterated chaos came knocking, or rather, texting. 10 days. 10 short days after I walked out that door, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was blunt, demanding. Did you cancel the electricity? The power's out. Internet's dead too. Chloe has midterms. Fix this. All caps, shouting at me through the phone screen like I was still just down the hall, their personal one-call technician waiting to leap into action. No hello, Grace. No how are you holding up, just a demand. I stared at the message, a bitter little smile playing on my lips, and then I deleted it. I didn't reply. The next day, my dad called. I saw his name flash on the screen and my stomach tightened, but I let it go to voicemail. He left a message. His tone wasn't angry, not yet. It was bewildered, laced with a dawning unease. Grace, listen, his voice crackled, hesitant. I'm not sure what's going on with some of these bills. We're getting calls, from the electric company, the gas company, even the college. Chloe's saying her online classes are frozen, something about a payment issue. Just call me back, okay? We need to sort this. I almost laughed out loud. A payment issue. They still had absolutely no clue. No inkling that I'd been the one single-handedly managing their entire financial ecosystem. By day 12, my old email account, the one they still had, was probably flooded. I imagined it, a deluge of spam from their utility providers. Past due notices, disconnection warnings, urgent alerts that Chloe's tuition portal had locked her out completely due to non-payment. By day 14, the penny, a very large and inconvenient penny, finally dropped for them. That's when my mom showed up at Olivia's apartment building. How on earth she found the address, I still don't know to this day. Maybe she'd wheedled it out of some distant cousin or guilt-tripped a naive former classmate of mine. I didn't let her in. I watched through the tiny, distorting peephole in Olivia's front door as she hammered on it for a good 5 minutes straight, her face contorted, her voice shrill and echoing in the hallway. Grace, Grace, you ungrateful brat. Open this door. We gave you everything. You think walking away like this makes you strong? It makes you pathetic. You're destroying this family. She didn't know. She still didn't get it. She had no idea that they were the ones who had systematically taken everything from me, my peace of mind, my savings, my trust, my sense of belonging. She had no clue that for years I had been paying for the very air she breathed in that overpriced house, the food she artfully arranged on plates for her Instagram stories about her blessed life. And I wasn't about to stand there and try to explain it to her through a locked door. Some lessons, you just have to learn on your own, in the dark. But life, it has this funny, unexpected way of letting the truth bubble to the surface, even when you're determined to stay silent, to just let the pieces fall where they may. Because just 2 days after my mother's charming little visit, I got a message that changed absolutely everything. It came from Mrs. Peterson, our old neighbor, and it came with undeniable, ice-cold proof. Mrs. Peterson had always been a kind soul. She lived 2 houses down from my family's place, a middle-aged woman, a single mom who ran a small, surprisingly successful pet photography business from her home studio. She had this incredible knack for capturing the personalities of animals. When Chloe and I were little, before life got so complicated, she used to babysit us sometimes when our parents were out or too busy. I hadn't spoken to her in months, not since well before the brunch incident. So when her name, Eleanor Peterson, popped up in my DMs on a social media platform I rarely used, I almost just swiped it away, thinking it was a mistake. But the message preview, those first few words, stopped me cold. Grace, honey, I need to show you something. I heard what Chloe did to you, what they all did. And I think I have proof she lied. My heart started pounding in my chest, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. I tapped the message open, my fingers trembling slightly. She had attached an audio clip. It started with some faint, tinny laughter, definitely young women's voices, music thumping softly in the background, like from a party or a casual get-together. Then Chloe's voice, clear as a bell, unmistakable, and laced with that familiar, arrogant amusement. Of course, I planted it in her drawer. You idiot, she was saying, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I needed people to finally see her for what she really is. Mom always goes on and on about how Grace acts so perfect, so responsible. Well, let's just see how perfect she looks when she's kicked out on her butt, branded a thief. I froze. My ears were ringing. A wave of icy coldness washed over me, even though Olivia's apartment was warm. She admitted it. She actually admitted it. She'd planted the necklace, framed me, orchestrated that entire hideous scene, lied bold-faced in front of our entire family, all just to... what? To humiliate me? To make herself look better by comparison? The casual cruelty of it, the premeditation, it stole my breath away. Mrs. Peterson sent another message almost immediately. She was talking to her friend, that loud one, Tiffany, I think, outside in their backyard near the fence. I had my camera and microphone set up for an outdoor pet portrait session, trying to get some action shots of Mrs. Henderson's poodle. The mic is pretty sensitive. It picked up their whole conversation. I didn't even realize what she was saying, what I'd captured, until I was editing the audio late last night, trying to filter out background noise. I couldn't believe my ears. I just sat there on Olivia's futon, stunned into silence, the damning audio still echoing in my head. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to cry, finally. But mostly, more than anything, I wanted them to feel even a fraction of the crushing injustice, the profound betrayal that they had so casually inflicted on me. I quickly messaged Mrs. Peterson back, asking if I could use the clip, though I wasn't even sure how yet. She replied almost instantly, "Honey, I already emailed it to the Dean of Student Affairs at Chloe's University this morning." Someone who behaves like that, who lies and manipulates so destructively, shouldn't get away with something that cruel, especially not at an institution that claims to value integrity. And just like that, with a click of Mrs. Peterson's mouse, the first significant crack appeared in Chloe's carefully constructed, perfect little world. 3 days later, I heard through the grapevine, a very reluctant, shamefaced text from my father, actually, that Chloe had been summoned to a disciplinary meeting at the university. Her usually vibrant, overly curated Instagram feed went dark. No more filtered selfies, no brunch pics with her gaggle of friends, no makeup tutorials filmed in her dorm room, just silence. A stark, echoing silence. Meanwhile, my mom's Facebook page, which had previously been a shrine to Chloe's supposed brilliance and her own amazing parenting, shifted dramatically. It was suddenly filled with vague, passive-aggressive, inspirational quotes about family betrayal and the pain of ungrateful children. The irony was almost too much to bear. I didn't need to show up at their doorstep with the evidence. I didn't need to say a single, solitary word to any of them. The truth, it turned out, was already doing its own devastating work. And honestly, I was just getting started in terms of rebuilding my own life, far away from their toxicity. By the time Chloe's second disciplinary hearing at the university rolled around, word had spread like wildfire. Mrs. Peterson's audio clip hadn't just gone to the dean. Oh no. It had somehow, as these things do, gotten shared in various student group chats, then inevitably posted to an anonymous student forum, probably by someone who had their own axe to grind with Chloe or her clique. People were whispering about it in the hallways between classes, in the cafeteria lines. Her professors, I heard, were looking at her differently, with a new, critical awareness. And suddenly, Chloe Sullivan, the golden girl who constantly bragged about her brails for minor influencers and her supposedly top grades, was fast becoming the campus joke, the subject of scorn and ridicule. She tried damage control. Of course she did. That's Chloe. She posted this long, incredibly dramatic caption on Instagram, reactivating it just for this purpose, talking vaguely about vicious family drama and terrible misunderstandings, accompanied by a carefully art-directed black and white photo of herself, looking pensive and tear-streaked. Probably glycerin tears, if I knew my sister. She wisely, or perhaps cowardly, turned off the comments. But it was far, far too late for that. The truth, that ugly, undeniable truth from her own lips, had already taken root and was spreading its tendrils throughout her precious social ecosystem. And then came the final, crushing blow. The university, after its investigation, suspended her. Not just for a semester, but indefinitely, for academic dishonesty and a severe code of conduct violation. And get this, it wasn't just for framing me, as heinous as that was. Apparently, this wasn't her first waltz with unethical behavior. She had plagiarized a major paper the previous semester and had somehow sweet-talked her way into getting off with just a stern warning and a resubmission. This time, with the audio evidence of her malicious deceit painting a much clearer picture of her character, they weren't letting it slide. Not a chance. She came home, or rather was sent home from her dorm, crying hysterically, according to another terse update from my father. Mom, predictably, went into full-blown panic mode, probably wailing about how Chloe's future was ruined, how this was all somehow my fault for existing, I suppose. Dad, he just sounded like a ghost of himself on the phone, hollow and defeated, apparently just sitting in silence at the kitchen table, chain-drinking coffee like it was water. The house, their house, once so loud and flashy and full of Chloe's endless chatter and my mother's pronouncements, had turned quiet. A cold, suffocating quiet. And the real kicker? They couldn't pay for anything anymore. Not a thing. The mortgage hadn't been paid in over a month. The utilities were being shut off, one by one, plunging them into literal and figurative darkness. Mom apparently called the power company, absolutely raging, demanding to know why her service was cut, only to be icily informed that the account was under the name Grace Sullivan and had been permanently closed due to a change of address and non-renewal by the account holder. They had no savings to speak of, no backup plan, no rainy day fund, because they had always just counted on me, on good old reliable Grace, to be their safety net, their endless well of resources. Meanwhile, far away from their imploding world, I was actually thriving. My boss, Mr. Davies, a decent, observant man, had noticed how incredibly focused and dependable I'd been at work, despite, as he put it, whatever personal storms you might be weathering, Grace. He'd seen the extra hours I was putting in, the quality of my reports. He called me into his office one afternoon, the scent of old books and brewing coffee thick in the air, and offered me a promotion, a significant one, and with it, an incredible opportunity to relocate, to help open and manage a new branch of our accounting firm in a brand new city, hundreds of miles away. You deserve a fresh start, Grace, he'd said, his gaze kind and direct, a chance to build something for yourself. And so I moved. I found a sunny, compact apartment on the 12th floor of a downtown high-rise in a vibrant, growing city. It wasn't huge, but it was mine, all mine. No shouting matches echoing through the walls, no cold shoulders in the hallway, no undercurrent of simmering resentment or outright betrayal. Just me, my cat, a lot of takeout containers in the beginning, and the incredible, liberating feeling of finally being able to breathe. Really, truly breathe. And for the very first time in my adult life, I didn't feel a shred of guilt about prioritizing myself. Not one tiny bit. About 2 weeks after I'd settled into my new place, gotten my utilities set up, in my own name for my own small space, imagine that, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was from my old hometown. I almost didn't answer, but something made me swipe right. It was someone I hadn't heard from in years, not since I was a kid. Aunt Carol. She was my mom's older sister, the one who'd famously left town in a blaze of glory, or infamy, depending on who was telling the story, after a massive, earth-shattering fight with my parents when I was maybe 10 or 11. Back then, my parents had painted her as unstable, difficult, jealous of our family's supposed success and happiness. Turns out, now I suspected, they were probably just terrified of what she knew, of the truths she wasn't afraid to speak. "Grace, sweetie?" Her voice came through the line, warm, a little raspy, but instantly recognizable despite the years. "It's your Aunt Carol. I saw your name mentioned in an article about that whole mess at Chloe's university, some student forum story that made its way to a local news aggregator. I've been sort of following things quietly, from a distance, and I think it's high time you knew something important." I was completely confused, my brow furrowed. "Knew something? About what, Aunt Carol?" she continued, her voice dropping a little conspiratorially. "Your grandmother, your dad's mom, Grandma Sullivan? Before she passed away, she left a trust fund in her will, a specific one. It was meant for you, Grace, just for you, not for your parents to manage, not for Chloe, for you." I sat up straighter on my secondhand sofa, the city lights twinkling outside my window. "What? A trust fund? I never knew. No one ever told me." "No, I don't suppose they would have," Aunt Carol said, a dry, knowing tone in her voice. "After your grandmother died, your parents, bless their conniving hearts, convinced the estate lawyer, an old family friend of theirs, not to notify you directly. They told him you were too young, too irresponsible with money, which was a laugh even then, and that they'd manage it for you until you were older, more mature. But that money was never ever theirs to touch or to control, Grace. It was your inheritance." My heart was racing, a wild bird trapped in my chest. How much are we talking about, Aunt Carol?" I managed to stammer out. "Last I heard, and this was a while ago when I first got wind of it, it was just over $85,000. It was supposed to help you start your life. College, a down payment on a small place, start a business, whatever you wanted or needed. It was your grandmother's way of giving you a leg up. I only found out for sure recently because I ran into that same lawyer at a conference. He's semi-retired now, but still dabbles. And he just casually mentioned it, assuming you already knew that you'd accessed it years ago." I was speechless, absolutely dumbfounded. They hadn't just betrayed me with the necklace lie. They had actively, deliberately stolen from me. They had hidden my future, my grandmother's legacy for me. All those years I was struggling, working myself to the bone, pouring my own hard-earned money into their bottomless pit of needs and wants, all while they were sitting on a secret on money that was rightfully, legally mine. Aunt Carol, bless her straightforward, no-nonsense heart, helped me contact that lawyer. She gave me his name, his new part-time firm's details. She even offered to make the initial call with me if I was nervous. I took a deep breath, thanked her profusely, and made the call myself the very next morning. The lawyer, once confronted with my identity and Aunt Carol's information, was apologetic, embarrassed even. He admitted my parents had been very persuasive, very insistent. Within a few weeks, after some paperwork and legal wrangling to prove my identity and circumvent my parents' previous interference, I had full, unrestricted access to the trust fund. It was real, every last cent of it. That night, as I sat in my little apartment and initiated the transfer of the funds into my own secure bank account, an account my parents knew nothing about, I felt something deep inside me shift, like a heavy iron door that I didn't even realize had been creaking open for years, slowly, painfully, finally clicked shut. This wasn't about revenge, not anymore. This was about justice. This was about reclaiming what was mine. And I knew, with a sudden, startling clarity, exactly what I was going to do next. With that $85,000 from Grandma Sullivan's trust fund finally safe and sound in my own account, and my new full-time job as a branch manager now paying me more than I'd ever earned before, I didn't just feel free. I felt, almost limitless. Like a bird that had been caged for so long it had forgotten it had wings. And now, suddenly, the door was wide open and the sky was vast. For so many years, I'd worked in silence, in the shadows. I'd paid their bills, I'd fixed their problems, I'd made myself as small and invisible as possible to keep the peace. Now I wanted to be seen, but on my own terms. That's when the idea sparked. It was almost a whim at first, but it grew quickly. I decided to use a portion of that trust fund money, my money, to launch something I'd secretly dreamed about for a while, a YouTube channel. I called it Financially Fearless with Grace. I set up a small, neat filming area in a corner of my bright little apartment with good lighting I bought online and a decent microphone. My very first video, the one I was most terrified and most excited to film, was titled, "They Called Me a Thief." But I was the one secretly paying all their bills. My story. I told my truth. Simply, honestly, without melodrama, but without holding back the raw facts of the betrayal and the quiet satisfaction of my escape. I uploaded it, my hand shaking as I clicked the button, and then I closed my laptop and tried not to think about it. It blew up. Overnight. I woke up the next morning to thousands of views, hundreds of comments. So many people, especially women, started sharing their own stories in the comments section. This is my story too, Grace. You are so incredibly brave for walking away. They absolutely don't deserve you. Thank you for making me feel less alone. It was overwhelming in the best possible way. I started creating more content, teaching the financial basics I knew so well from my career. How to create a real budget that works, how to spot the red flags of toxic financial manipulation within families or relationships, how to build an escape fund, how to set boundaries, and yes, how to leave when you're being used and financially abused. Sponsors started reaching out, reputable financial institutions, budgeting apps, ethical investment platforms. Podcasters and bloggers wanted to interview me. My story, my personal, painful story, became something more than just mine. It became a voice, a beacon for so many other people out there who were tired of being the family doormat, the unpaid therapist, the silent ATM. And my parents, my sister, I heard through the family grapevine, mostly relayed by a sympathetic cousin who'd reached out after seeing my channel, that they eventually had to sell the house. They simply couldn't afford to keep it without my substantial income propping them up. They downsized, apparently, to a small, cramped rental in a less desirable part of town. Chloe, I heard, tried to start a new social media account, reinventing herself as some kind of self-care and resilience coach. It didn't last. No one in her former circles or online forgot what she did. A reputation, especially one shattered by your own recorded words, is so much harder to rebuild than a depleted bank account. One day, months later, I got a text message on my new phone number, a number only a handful of trusted people had. It was from my mom. Just 5 words. "Can we please talk, Grace?" I stared at the message for a long time, and then I deleted it. I didn't reply, because I no longer needed closure or apologies or anything at all from people who had once, without a second thought, thrown me out like yesterday's garbage. I had found my own peace, built my own closure, brick by painstaking brick. Now, every single time I turn on my little ring light, every time I look into the camera lens, every time I press that upload button, I remember that awful, surreal moment when Chloe stood up and with a chillingly casual cruelty said I stole her necklace. And you know what? I smile. Because in their desperate, malicious attempt to tear me down, to ruin me, they inadvertently built the strongest, most resilient, most fearless version of me I've ever known. They kicked me out of their crumbling house. So I went out and built a kingdom, and this time, absolutely no one is allowed to steal anything from it. It's been almost a full year now. A whole year since I was unceremoniously kicked out of my childhood home, the place I grew up, with nothing but a single backpack stuffed with a few essentials and a heart that felt bruised and battered beyond repair. A year since I was branded a liar, a thief, and a burden by the very people I had been systematically, silently sacrificing everything for as long as I could remember. Funny how life has a way of turning things upside down, or maybe right side up, when you least expect it. Back then, standing on that cold sidewalk with the door slammed shut behind me, I truly thought I was losing everything I'd ever known or cared about. But really, looking back now, I realize I wasn't losing. I was being set free, liberated. Now, I wake up every single morning in a place that's quiet, truly quiet. It's clean, because I'm the only one here to make a mess or clean it up. And it's peaceful, so incredibly peaceful. My little apartment, the one I pay for all by myself, overlooks a bustling city skyline that glitters at night. I drink my morning coffee, good coffee that I can actually afford now, sitting by the big window, watching the city wake up while I answer emails from clients, from subscribers, from collaborators who respect me, who value my input. My YouTube channel, Financially Fearless with Grace, has grown beyond my wildest dreams. I've gained over 600,000 subscribers, 600,000 people who find value in what I have to say. I've been invited to speak at financial literacy conferences, been a guest on podcasts I used to listen to religiously, and most importantly, I've connected with and hopefully helped thousands of people, especially women, find the courage and the tools to cut those toxic financial ties with families or partners who are holding them back, and to start over, to build lives of their own. Sometimes I hear things through the extended family grapevine, a whispered comment from Aunt Carol, or a stray remark from that one cousin who still talks to both sides. Apparently, my parents watch my videos. In secret, of course. Chloe, too, I'm told. They're shocked, apparently, completely bewildered that I turned out this way. Successful, independent, outspoken. But the truth I've come to understand deep in my bones is that I didn't just turn out this way. I was always this woman. This capable, resilient, resourceful woman was inside me all along. They just never bothered to look closely enough to see me, to truly see past their own needs and assumptions. And now they can watch me from afar. They can sit in the silence of their downsized lives, the silence I once lived in, trying to make myself invisible. They can feel the profound absence of the person who quietly kept their lights on, their fridge full, their family name from appearing on delinquency lists. I don't hate them. Honestly, I don't. I don't even wish them active harm. That kind of bitterness, it only poisons the person holding on to it. But I do hope, I truly do, that they understand this much, at least. When you try to bury someone in lies, when you try to crush their spirit, they don't always just disappear. Sometimes they dig themselves out. And sometimes, against all odds, they bloom. And that right there, that's how I took their calculated betrayal and turned it into my most significant breakthrough. They tried to destroy me with a web of deceit, but I simply walked away from the wreckage and built a life, a full, vibrant life, that they can now only watch from a very, very long distance. If you've ever been wrongfully blamed for something you didn't do, or felt used and exploited by the very people who should have been your staunchest protectors, please know this. Walking away, choosing yourself, it isn't weakness. Sometimes it is the single most powerful, most transformative thing you can ever do. Thank you so much for listening to my story, for sharing this journey with me. If any part of this resonated with you, if it touched your heart or sparked a recognition, please consider leaving a comment below. I truly love reading your thoughts and experiences. Sharing your own story, or even just a word of support, can be incredibly healing, not just for you, but for others who might be going through something similar. And if you're able, supporting the channel through a super thanks helps us continue to bring these important stories to light. Don't forget to subscribe, because the next story we share, well, let's just say you won't want to miss it.